Good morning, everybody, to Teacher's Table. I'm your host, Michael Matera, and I am really excited to be here today. I got my cup of joe. I love sitting around the teacher's table with all of you and chit-chat about education and how things are going. It has been quite a time here between the election and things in the classroom that way to a rise in COVID cases. I'm here in Wisconsin where they're sort of off the charts right now. So we'll hopefully all hunker down and stay safe. I know as a school, we have made the decision to switch to online learning. We did that last week because of the number of cases in our school. And now we're going to do that for the next 7 school days as cases are high here in Wisconsin. And that'll take us through Thanksgiving, and then we're going to come back after Thanksgiving. So at least that's the plan. We'll see if it ends up actually going through that way. But it has been a sort of scary number of days here. So as always, if you guys could drop your name off to the side so I know who's here, excited to chat with a bunch of educators, really supporting each other with ideas, some hopefully some inspiration, some community here. That's what I love about the Teacher's Table. It is open to everyone. So again, please post off to the side. We got Natalia, which is awesome. Good to have you here. I was just had a little brain fart there. Love that we have been able to play some games together. Natalia, I'm gonna move these down here. That's been super fun. And we got Amanda Gray. Good morning, Amanda. So nice to see you here. And we have Megan Wells. I believe, is this your first time, Megan? That's awesome to have you around the teacher's table. Like I said, we're going to share out ideas, talk to each other. Let's see how things are going. If you could put the @Mr. Matera in your response, then I see it. It kind of gets highlighted a little bit. Oh, like Amanda just did here. I said this at Teacher's Tavern last night, but our school still isn't going remote. I was one of 2 teachers out of last week. I was one of the 2 teachers out last week for testing positive. You tested positive. I'm so sorry, Amanda. Hopefully everything's okay. Hopefully you're feeling all right. Hopefully you're one of the asymptomatic ones. Jason, good to have you here. Morning. I hope, like I said, Amanda, that you are doing okay. It's scary. It's real. This COVID thing. I know that's the hard thing is with it being kind of a virus, you don't see it, and so it's hard to, I don't know, picture, right? It's hard to like be fearful of what you don't see, yet we know what's happening. We know these numbers are coming in, so it's hard as a middle school teacher to constantly remind students to like keep their mask up, keep socially distanced. You don't want to constantly be hounding them, but at the same time, like, they're kids and they want to be next to each other, but there's this virus going around. So it is tough. Let's see, what does Megan say? Not first time, but I tend to miss these by a few minutes. Oh, well, good to have you back then, Megan. Like I said, love having people around the teacher's table and sharing out ideas. So hopefully you join in and share out some ideas. Yeah, I'm good. Had a few days of symptoms and a solid week of not being able to taste and smell. Rude. This would crush me, this not taste and smell thing, because I absolutely love cooking and you know that. But I did joke with somebody, if you can't taste, did you just like only eat super healthy things? Like, I think I would just be munching on kale all day long if I can't taste. So Amanda, answer me that. Like, you really like can't taste a thing? And then if that's true, let's kale it up, right? We are still virtual. I got 3 students with COVID. That's scary too. The fact that like kids can get it. I saw on Twitter the other day, someone posted where I was in a group that was sharing about like how things are going, that were a little scared of the situation, all of these things. And they posted, they were in Texas. They posted, that they're still in person, and that in their school, a kindergartner died of COVID, and yet they're still in school. So part of me is like, what is it going to take for the general public to realize this is a real threat? The rest of the world has got this thing more on check than we do, with this sort of bullheaded, like, we're going to do this, like, it's fine, we can open it up, and, you know, like, don't tell me what to do attitude is like ridiculous. We're not fighting with another human that might be intimidated with that attitude. We're fighting with a virus, a single cell organism. Like, it doesn't care what we think. So I do hope that more and more people take it serious. On the note of seriousness, I kind of wanted to share with this group something that was big for me. So I got to walk you through a little bit of a timeline here so that you understand this. But my ex-wife and I obviously live in two different houses. Our school students can go virtually if they want, and she's working from home. And so last Friday, we made the decision, because cases are so high and our school wasn't calling it. We made the decision, well, sorry, by last Friday, I don't mean yesterday. So 2 Fridays ago, we made the decision that Mila would be virtual. And as such, as long as I was going to school, she wouldn't get to come to my house, which stinks because we have 50-50 custody. I absolutely love being a dad with her and hanging out with her. But we made the decision that with the situation the way it is, I don't want my ex-wife to get COVID. I don't want Mila to get COVID. And so we're going to take those steps as best we can. And that was a big decision. I mean, it was probably the hardest, well, second hardest conversation I've ever had with my daughter, to sort of say, like, I'm not going to be able to see her, or I'm only going to get to see her this way, virtually. Then thankfully, it lucked out that last week our school did decide to go virtual, so we didn't have to begin that just yet. Also, big luck factor, because that was not yesterday, but Friday before that we made that decision. And this past Friday, had we not gone virtual, was her 10th birthday, and I wouldn't have been able to go to my own daughter's 10th birthday. This is one of those things where I don't know if the general public understands, like, all the sacrifices we as teachers are making and how serious us that are on that front lines take this virus. And it's above my pay grade to be virtual or not be virtual, so I'm at the whim of that. But something that is in my hands, is in my control, is what I do with my own daughter. And so we made that sacrifice. Thankfully, so far, we didn't have to make that sacrifice, because we went virtual last week, and then this weekend we just found out we're going virtual for another 7 school days. So our school is kind of piecemeal doing it. They're not calling it for like a semester or a quarter or whatever. They're just sort of doing it week by week. But thankfully, we bought a little more time before I don't get to see my daughter. So, but that's sad. I just gotta tell you guys, like, that was really hard for me, and this whole situation is out of our control. And that was partly what I was going to talk about today, was this idea of control, that as teachers, we're planners. As teachers, we can try to control as much as we can the variables within our class, yet this COVID thing puts us way out of control in terms of what we do, how we do it. Let's see. Well, we got to go back on some of these comments. Megan, I'm in Texas, still open, at least 1 reported case a day. That's crazy. Again, Amanda, I usually eat pretty healthy, and when I don't feel well, I eat junk food. I legit just made baked chicken and veggies for a week. It went against everything I believe in. No spices. That's awesome. Let's see. Jason, it is truly, like I said, hardest conversation obviously was the divorce and telling Mila that we were getting separated. That was hardest conversation number 1. Hardest conversation number 2 was telling her that we're making the decision for her to go virtual and not see me. And I don't think COVID's going to go away anytime soon. So whenever our school goes back, I don't get to see my daughter. And that's sad. Amanda, that was super tough. Thank you, Natalia, like I said. Let's see. We have been expected to put other families first, but it is especially true these days. This point, Jason, is so true. Like, my whole life, definitely, well, not my whole life, but my whole life as an educator, it really has been students first, and sadly, like, family kind of second. Obviously, in your heart, that's not true, but in practicality, when your job, right, all jobs take up a ton of our time. So even if you're a businessman, like it takes a ton of your time, and you could argue that like work first. But when your work is selling widgets or moving some money around, that just feels different than when your 100% time is about others. So I would imagine like pastors might feel this way, priests might feel this way, doctors, nurses might feel this way, when like you're giving all your energy to people, not things, not products. And then when you come home, like they get what's left over, and they're people, right? So that's harsh. But like you said, in this COVID time, it's an extra piece, I guess, that we're putting literally everybody else's families over our own. Like, I'm not going to see my daughter. That's tough. Let's see what Megan says. I have a coworker that's daughter had a liver transplant. She doesn't have a choice, and you can tell it's taking a toll. Yeah, like this idea that like we are at the whim is tough, you know. But then I think about how also we have like a rise in unemployment, and then there's a piece of me that's like I have a steady income. So I mean, like balancing these out, this idea of like have a job I love in a place I love under normal conditions, I love, but now in this like tough situation, being at the mercy of everybody else and putting everybody else over your own family, I am nervous about the toll that might take if we do go back, like to not see my daughter. Like that's not going to be okay. Let's see. Last thing, I made up a game while I was quarantined. It's called Can I Taste the Ice Cream Yet? I took a spoonful out of the tub every few hours. Oh, a bad, when I couldn't taste it, I lost the round and had to come back. When I could taste it again, finish the tub. Like I said, that is obviously like assuming if you set aside all COVID, like big problems, like, you know, hospitalization and breathing and all that other stuff. The other fear I have is the not being able to taste. And I've heard some people that don't get that back for months. Some, it comes back right away. I love the little game you came up with. Like I said, I think I would just eat kale all day. Let's see, Jordan. I've been struggling with that a lot this week, trying to get ready for my daughter's birthday today, but trying to be an engaging teacher. Thank you for all you do for us. I mean, it is so true, Jordan, right? This idea of like giving our family that sort of creative energy. You know, imagine if you poured into your family's weekend the same kind of like thoughtful design as you pour into your lesson design. I mean, I'm trying to do brain breaks with my kids. I'm trying to be funny and witty with my kids over the Zoom and the things. So if we poured that same energy into like daily activity with our own kids, that I'm sure that would be an amazing weekend. But the reality is, after I've poured all those energies, those creative juices out into my lesson plans, my family sometimes gets, like I said, the leftovers, which is tough. My wife is immune compromised. Oh, I knew that, Jason. One of my students are bothered current undergoing chemo. I am terrified that if I miss a protocol, I'll be putting them at risk. And that, I think, is what you have to do, and remind students of this. I will say some of my students, you know, obviously when we were in person, you know, as any rule goes in school, the longer we went in school year, the more laxed they took those protocols. You know, like the more like sitting in their chair wasn't a thing. They would sort of walk over to their friends and you'd have to remind them. And then eventually like the mask would go down to like here, and then eventually it was here. Then it was eventually like, no, like put it up. I like your point. If we keep others in mind, or keep family in mind, our families in mind, it might keep us more vigilant to that. But then also taking a moment to remind them of the sacrifices we're all making, or that there are those backstories that, like, about your wife, if you feel comfortable sharing that. I know in the beginning of the year, for example, we ate lunch with kids in our rooms, and that was like our lunch break as well, was in that room. And I sort of refused to eat because they all have their masks down, they're eating. and they're talking, they're middle school. So I have to respond to them sort of breaking that protocol that they're talking with their mask down. So for me to respond, I'd have to put my mask back on. So I didn't have a lunch break. And a lot of times I had class all around the lunch hour. We have to take a school lunch. We have to take a school lunch. So lunch was only served in that slot. So there was a lot of times I didn't get to eat at all. And sometimes I tell you that story to remind us all that sometimes telling the kids those sacrifices that you're being made help them be a little more diligent in terms of the rules. So I would tell kids like, hey, please sit in your seat. Please keep your mask up. Like for example, I didn't eat today, trying to follow these protocols and these rules and these safety procedures. Least you could do would be keep your mask up or stay in your chair or whatever the case may be. See what Kyle says. We are remote, but on paternity leave now. That's awesome. Still grading though, and trying to keep up with all the lessons that I left behind. Yep, I've made 4 weeks of lessons for 2 grade levels each day. I don't know how you did it. I'll be honest, when I had Mila, I think I only missed 5 school days when I had Mila. Trying to write sub-plans that far out was an impossibility for me. I just can't do it. But again, Kyle had some great news. So congratulations on having your second child. And hopefully you and Allie are doing great and are at home and everything's well. If you answered that in the chat to somebody else, I apologize for not seeing it. Yeah. So, all right. So we're 17 minutes in here, and I didn't even put up today's like goal. Today's like goal is 15. So let's smash that like goal. We got 12 watching. Maybe we can get there. So like I said, today's idea was about control and kind of getting control of our lives, getting control of our classrooms in this moment where you feel totally out of control. Like I shared with you on here, I'm not even certain how much longer I have to see my daughter because if we go back, so I know through Thanksgiving I'll be able to be with my daughter, see my daughter, but possibly come December, that won't be the case. So, yeah, this idea of control, and I will tell you, in all of this, it's hard, and it's hard to maintain focus. You guys know, some of you know at least, that I'm a goal setting kind of guy. I did my 1 month goals for all of last year. I have still kept up with that. I don't necessarily film them and tell you guys about them, but been doing that. And I will tell you, this lack of control in my life seeped in to some of the other areas that I did have control, which I found fascinating to me, but also like, oh man, I have to fight back this challenge. I found myself watching a little more TV, eating a little more than I was supposed to, right? And not necessarily eating healthy either. And I don't even want to say like healthy eating. I just mean like I was eating more like a college kid. Like I was like, I don't need to make anything. There's a bag of pretzels I can eat. And all of this is in my control, but because of an overwhelming sense of out of control, like having to come to school and missing my daughter because of COVID, not being able to eat at school because of COVID, right? Like just these things, even the decision to go virtual, not go virtual on a week-to-week basis. Are we going to call it? Should we call it? We should call it. Like the numbers are high, but we don't know. Maybe next week we'll be back in person. All of this produced an amazing stress that then the things I had control over, I let go of, which wasn't healthy. So nonetheless, I decided like last week, like to be better and like snap out of it and pay more attention to goals, do the things I love. So some of you know that I turned back on the Let's Play community, and that's a piece of this YouTube channel. So we have the Teacher's Table, which is a live stream. We have Well Played, which is my podcast that you can see the videos on. And then I have just regular vlogs that are teacher vlogs giving you tips, tricks, and all those things. That's super love those. And then I had this Let's Play, which is live stream game community. But I like let that go because like, there was like an apathy towards things And I was like, why? Like, I love gaming. I love helping out. I love the community around that table. So I made sure I brought it back, and it's been great. It's been so fun to dedicate some time to something I love. And this is another piece, is making sure you're taking time for yourself and the things you love. I love playing games. I love helping people out. I love teaching. And this Let's Play community kind of blends all those. I get to teach you about a new game. We get to play it together around the table, have a great time. So think about the things in your life that you love to do that maybe you've sort of set aside. Some of them you might not be able to do because of COVID, but some of them are in your control. And don't do what I did. I let that lack of control just sort of take away all the things I love. So make sure you don't do that. Emma, good to see you here. Kyle updating us. Home and happy. I was amazed at the hospital staff. They were incredible, but it is nice to be home and setting a new routine. That's fabulous. Absolutely. People want to meet the new baby and they can't. Except for FaceTime. Need to learn how to get the college diet under control and running schedule back on track. It's so true. It's so true. Yeah, Let's Play. I was so excited to bring that back. You and Allie played the other day when we did Metro X. And then we literally put the next Let's Play when you guys were at the hospital. I apologize about that, but I'm excited to have you guys back in playing whenever that can happen. Totally can relate to what you're saying. Basically spend 5 months eating feelings and doom scrolling. Oh my gosh, doom scrolling. I love that. I love that term. That's awesome. I will tell you, in terms of the election, doom scrolling definitely took off. It took off in my life. Like, I just would scroll and want to hear the next thing and want to listen to the next talking head about who was going to win the election and what was going to happen. And now, like, that are, not to overstate it, but being a history teacher, what is currently happening is just, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, but like, that is unjustifiable. Like, that is ridiculous that, like, the people have spoken and this transfer of power is not happening the way it's supposed to. That's just wrong. Like, that's wrong. I don't care how you cut it. The election has been called, certified. Some government officials have said that it is the most secure election ever because of all the situations that were happening. Extra precautions were taken, and like, oh my goodness. So doom scrolling every day. I'm like, when is this gonna, like, when is that peaceful transfer gonna happen? And I just keep listening, and then you keep listening to how, like, it isn't happening, and how much this is rocking the core of democracy, how much this is putting us in international situations in which we look pretty silly. Then Trump has fired several of his staff, several heads of staff, and how that actually puts us in an unsafe situation internationally as well, because we're losing leadership in positions, and the world sees that. I listened to Bolton talk about it, and he's a Republican, and he was sharing how, like, this is horrible for us internationally. So yes, doom scrolling. I can endlessly doom scroll right now, and it's scary, and it freaks me out. Super. Dave finally made it to a live session. Super excited to have you here. Sorry for my political rant there. Jason just talked about doom scrolling, and it is a term I had not heard, and I definitely like it. Happy to have you here. We're talking about things that are in our control and how we can kind of focus on that and work towards, making sure we don't slide into oblivion here with COVID happening and all the things that are out of our control, whether we're virtual, hybrid, or in person, and then the rules that are around those things, whether you like them or not. Like, we just seem to be at the fate of everybody else. So we're sort of talking about taking control of the things that are in our lives that we can control. So for me, it meant like getting back into the kitchen and cooking good food and food I love. I got a new cookbook the other day and have been eating my way through that cookbook. It's super awesome. It's a bunch of Thai food, which I think is one of my favorite cuisines. So that's been fun. And then I brought back this game community. That's been fun. Jason and I played a game on something called Vorpal board. I definitely want to play with some of you other members on this. So if anybody's looking for a not live stream game, but a game we could all play together, I think I can play games up to about 6 players on there. So sometime we have to find a time that we can play a 6-player game or a 5-player game with some of you guys on the Vorpal board, which is a company out of Madison where I live near. Super excited to see that. Let's see. Amanda, making chili this weekend, so you must have your taste back. That shrimp pasta dish was amazing. This was from that Thai cookbook. It was so good and not hard to make, not complicated. Sometimes Thai food, you need a lot of ingredients. This was low ingredient, high flavor. Absolutely love it. Yeah, that was good. What does Megan say? I think the idea that we went virtual in the first place has put a lack of control because any day we could go back. I, as a teacher and a parent of a child at my school, I wish we would make the calls for larger blocks of time. This sort of week-to-week basis. I will admit, like, seeing the kids in person was amazing. Like, it definitely gives you an energy, and I loved seeing the kids in person. But again, just because somebody loves something doesn't make it right. You know, like we hear often, like the kids like being in school, like we should put them back in school. But if it puts people at risk, too much of a risk, and here in the Milwaukee area, like all hospital beds are taken, people are dying because they can't get a hospital, like not of COVID, right? Like because the hospitals are overstaffed. Like if I have a heart attack today and all the hospital beds are taken, what could be like a simple fix might not be a simple fix. That I think trumps the fact that like kids like to be in school, or I like to have that energy of the room. And so I just sort of wish we would take a larger block of time, not a week by week, because then again, that brings that like lack of control. Like, am I designing like their end of the unit assessment? Like, am I designing that for a virtual classroom? Am I designing that for an in-person classroom? It puts a lot of stress on us to deliver high quality content. Like, it's different. If I know I'm going to be virtual, I will design a lesson, a unit, very different than if I'm in person or if I'm hybrid. So these are 3 different techniques, right? It's like the 3 different meals of the day. Going with a food analogy, like you gotta tell me, am I serving breakfast? Am I serving lunch? Am I serving dinner? Like, am I making eggs? Am I making sandwiches, or am I making steak? Like, I need to know what's happening. Sorry for any of you vegetarians out there, because I just listed a bunch of non-vegetarian food. Let's see what Dave says. Blended learning has been weird. Any suggestions for PE teachers on a gamified point system for those that see students in school every day? So sort of 2 separate things there. Any suggestions for PE teachers on a gamified class there? I will say teaching hybrid was weird. A friend of mine said, you know, there's biblical precedent for not doing hybrid. And that's, you know, serving 2 masters and no one's happy, like that whole thought on the Bible. And this idea that like we have in-person and virtual, I will tell you, as somebody that doesn't like the hybrid, but I do see it as a necessary evil. As much as I'd like to sort of do away with it, and that's out of my control, I gotta tell you, with the fact that we're in a pandemic, if you're going to be in person, giving the option for virtual is a necessity, because kids are going to have to be quarantined for testing, and I'd rather have them come in virtually than just miss 2 weeks in my class. I mean, that I think would be harder. So it is a necessary evil. As far as PE and giving some points, how did you word that? Gamified point system for those that see students in the school. I mean, I think there's all sorts of ways you can gamify PE and give out sort of gamified points system. I guess I'd need to know more about your question. Is it more about like hybrid teaching as a PE teacher and gamifying? Or are you literally just saying, even if the world was normal again, how do you gamify PE? That would be kind of a different thing. Nice. Mr. Matera, you need to share the recipe with the little pods you did during Hive Summit. I will, I'll definitely try to share some of the recipes out. I definitely love doing that as well. Call it what it is, emergency learning. I love it. I love it. Jennifer Knox made it. Love seeing you here, Jennifer Knox. Just remember this. Good morning. Trying to turn off the phone on the weekends. Hope you all have an awesome weekend. I'll have to watch the video later. Fabulous. Jennifer, you did not miss the confetti party because I just realized we broke our goal, so I will make sure we do it. All right, let's do this. All right, we made it. We made it to today's like goal of 15. Thank you so much for being here. Again, we have hit our like goal almost every week now for the last couple of weeks, so that's fantastic. I love it. Thank you guys for making this a regular stop. Hopefully you guys also have joined our Teachers Table Facebook group. It's growing. We're at 733 members. I was going to put out sort of a challenge to those of you that are in this community. If this week you guys could sort of post an idea, post something that you've done, post something you want to talk about. I want to see some idea shares in there. I'm going to take that challenge too, so I'm going to make sure this week I post a lesson idea or activity that you guys could borrow and use. But definitely, let's make sure this community has some other things placed in it. Let's see. We've been hybrid the whole time. They can be completely asynchronous. I have not met 10% of my kids. Recipes, welcome. I love it, Megan. Maybe I'll post the recipe on the Teacher's Table. Maybe that'll be the thing I share. Emma, confetti, woo! Love it. I love all this, like, happiness, right? This joy. That's what I love. Mini dance party. Boop, boop. Natalia. So it is 8:32 here in the old Central Standard Time. So we're going to call it quits here. But again, thank you guys for being part of this community. And let's try that challenge of posting something to Teacher's Table. Maybe I'll get that recipe up there for all you guys to try. It is so delicious. We will reconvene. The next Teacher's Table is not this coming Monday, but the following Monday. And I hope to see you guys on Teacher's Table then. That'll be fabulous. I know we're going to have a good weekend. If anybody wants to try to play a game on that Vorpal board, like I was telling you, like DM me on Twitter and we'll try to find a time that we can kind of get together. Like I said, I think the most I can have on that is 6. And stay on the lookout for more Let's Plays. I'd love to see more of you join the Let's Plays, because obviously the more around the table, the more fun that is, the more chat feature that gets activated, which I love. I love hearing from you guys. It makes me feel like we're around a table. That would be awesome. All right, everybody, you have a great rest of your day and take care.